Hey everyone, I'm Ryan.
I'm Drew.
Welcome back to Nifilmism. It's been a few weeks since we've recorded a podcast. Not long after the last one, I ended up getting sick and then work was busy, but we're back for the new year, and we'd like to start off with an apology. There were a few very glaring, obvious omissions from the last one that we did. As for books, we didn't even mention Fight Club for
I've never
adaptations.
read it. I've never read any. Was it Palahniuk?
Oh,
Chuck
Palahniuk.
Yeah. I've never read any stuff, but no, Fight Club should be on there. And then the one that I think came to us right after we stopped recording was for Juliette Lewis movies. How did we forget From Dusk Till Dawn?
I don't know, but even more glaring than that was when we were talking about Tom Hardy, we didn't talk about The Revenant.
And pelts, and needing pelts.
Yes.
And having plans.
He was he was the second best actor in that movie, and the first was not Leonardo DiCaprio. The first was the kid from We Are the Millers. I'm not joking. That kid nailed it.
Yeah.
When I saw him, at first it took me out of the movie because, oh, he's got to smuggle drugs in an RV in a bad comedy. Yeah. Okay, not the worst comedy I've seen, but regardless, I really thought, this kid? Really? And then he stole the show. Now, Tom Hardy is probably the best character in the movie. He's the only one that was even mildly relatable.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I get to make him that fleshed out of a character as a villain, which villains are easy to flesh out usually, but in a movie that's that simple, it's just a revenge story basically. He was a compelling character.
But he wasn't a villain. I would have done the same thing. This guy was attacked by a bear. He's not going to live.
Your fault. Fuck you, your fault. Our contract is up.
Yeah, we've got to go up the side of a mountain carrying your dying ass on a stretcher. I'm sorry. We have to leave you behind. We're fucked. Keep going. Speaking of Tom Hardy, I did just watch the newest season of Peaky Blinders, and he's back in that as good as ever, so that one stays on the list. I'm not sure what I would bump to put on there, but you have to at least
that
consider.
that was your personal pick that, anybody who has also watched the series would probably put on there.
Yeah, I don't know what we would bump to put The Revenant on there, but at least I needed to apologize for not even mentioning it.
The fact that we rifled through a lot of those relatively quick with very little to no research, because this is our free time as well as yours.
Well,
and fuck doing homework.
But some of those were coming in as we were recording the podcast, it's not like we had a chance to research.
Those are the ones that we were like, why the hell didn't we talk about this, or how could we have forgotten this? So we felt like we needed to come back and do a week's late addendum.
Yes. All right, so coming up for 2018, we've got a few episodes, just to let you know what I'd say look forward to, but that's being generous.
Things we have that we are waiting for third mics on, basically.
Yes.
Or that we ideally want third mics. We could do this alone, but I don't know. Do you really want to listen to the both of us ramble on and on about one topic for that long without somebody to kind of interject?
Balance us out.
Yeah.
Doesn't agree with us. So.
But yeah, one of the ones we did see, we want to talk about is we saw The Disaster Artist. And we do have some people lined up that we want to talk about that with that also enjoyed seeing that.
What else? We're going to be doing a special. Jesus, not really a special. It's a fucking episode. We are going to be doing an episode on historical movies. That one we've got a very special guest coming on. He is very well versed in history, and you'll be meeting him soon.
And then just a little tease on that. One of the early podcast ideas before we even started this was, can we get over the fact that Braveheart is not a good movie?
And we're finally getting back to that topic.
Just to tease a little bit of what probably will go into that. But yeah, that's one of the bigger idea ones that we don't want to jump in alone without, thinking and mulling over what we want to talk about for that stretch.
So with that, we decided just to ease our way back into the new year with a quick episode talking about some of the movies that we saw recently. We both saw Thor much later than the general population.
Yes, and we also saw Star Wars. We are going to spoil it, so that'll be in the latter half of this episode. We'll probably give you a disclaimer. We'll at least be kind there. But yeah, we'll start with Thor, which at this point, the in the modern the modern world. It's been long enough, so we're not even gonna bother telling you that we're gonna spoil it because it's been what 2 months or whatever before after it's released.
No, it was what, July?
Was it July?
I think it was mid-year because
Really?
it just hit the cheapies.
I think no, it was November. I think it was November.
No,
Early November.
really?
Thor's usually at the end because I think even Marvel knows that people are bored by Thor movies. So they put it at the end of August or September. They put it in that what was the Guardians of the Galaxy spot before everybody just took to the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that became one of the premiere movies. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok, which if you saw the previews was clearly a hey, we know you like Guardians of the Galaxy, so we're gonna try to make this as Guardians of the Galaxy as possible. To middling effect after that, I would say of the 3 Thor movies, 1 is really boring but better on rewatch. 2 is abysmal trash and wastes Christopher Eccleston. And 3 is fun, but has a story that shouldn't be fun, and it makes me fear the tonal dissonance with what Marvel wants to do with these movies now.
All right, 2 things. 1, you were right. It was November. It's usually 6 months on the Marvel movies before it hits the cheapies.
I think we're in that cycle where there's so many of these things that people don't see it. If you don't see it week of release, it's going to be in the cheapies quick. Because the turnover rate is exceptionally fast on these now.
So here's my review of Thor Ragnarok in a nutshell. Do you remember the Star Trek reboot? Have you seen the Star Trek reboot?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking your JJ Trek.
Yes,
Trek.
JJ Trek.
Lens flare Trek.
Yes. Now I want you to remember the scene where the planet Vulcan gets blown up, and they're all staring off the ship, watching their planet die.
But then you
and
quit.
Then put a joke in.
Yeah, then you quit.
Put a funny joke in about, the structure sound, we can rebuild. Oh, no, it's ruined. Why? Your whole planet just blew up and you had to throw a quip in. Why?
Here's the comic nerd in me. The fact that Asgard is like a reachable place in space is fucking stupid. But
okay.
Aside from that, but no, it's just they had a good story. Granted, they had to change some of the Thor lore to make the story work.
And that's okay.
But that's fine. It's film. Like, you gotta get things how they are. There's gonna be people who are gonna be like, I'm not gonna like this movie because Hela is their sister and not Loki's daughter. Like, who cares? Like, even in the comics, they fuck around with this because of how ridiculous the actual Norse mythology is.
Even in real Norse mythology, if you can keep that shit straight, good for you.
Yeah.
Because I took classes in college on Norse mythology, Greek mythology, and I'm not even sure that they knew. It was stories. So yeah, change it, make it whatever works.
But no, like the actual this is another Marvel issue. Is the villain's plot is the B plot in all these movies, and just the main character hanging out with their friends is the A plot, and I don't like that.
Well, I kind of do. I mean, look at Guardians.
Yeah,
Guardians 2. What made that movie good was his relationship with Yondu.
Yes, and Ego was actually a fun villain, mainly because of casting choices.
Yeah.
But, like, Ronan the Accuser was fucking terrible. almost as bad as Eccleston in Dark World. In terms of, oh wow, we forgot we have a main villain that we have things to do with here. And just Marvel's it's the tried and true. Everybody always riffs on this as Marvel throws away good, maybe not name villains, because Marvel villains as opposed to DC villains are far less memorable, but they have a lot of the history if you're gonna follow. But like Marvel tends to throw away important characters. Like in Cosmic Marvel, Ronan the Accuser is not a bad guy at this point, and he's actually a really strong character. And you just threw him away, and you cast a good actor for him too, and threw him away. Same with I can't remember even the character now because I haven't been reading comics, but the Dark World villain who Eccleston plays is a major Thor villain, and you just threw him away in a terrible movie.
But I'm not
that Natalie Portman clearly didn't want to be there for.
I'm not coming at it from the perspective of a comic book fan. I'm coming at it from the perspective of, I mean, don't get me wrong, I liked comic books.
It's the problem is it's the whoopee cushion effect. It's you're building up a sad scene and then you sit on the whoopee cushion.
Going back to Abrams' Trek, that was a movie that was legitimately funny at times. There's well placed humor, and that's the difference. Yes. It knew when to be funny to break up the tension, and it knew when not to. To a lesser extent, you could say the same thing about Guardians, but it's a goofier cast of characters.
That skews more humorous, whereas New Trek knew when to have Bones say something funny and knew when not to have somebody say something funny. Whereas, because this movie story-wise is a mashup of the Ragnarok plot, the Ragnarok
Planet
story,
Hulk, right?
And Planet Hulk. And Planet Hulk is absurd, but it's also one of the best Hulk stories because who would have thought when you have the Hulk be a contemplative and like thinking character, he's a much better character. That's my favorite version of the Hulk, anyways. Is a cogitating Hulk. But no, that including that character worked well. Valkyrie, good character. You got enough of a story of why she would just be a drunk.
Yeah,
perfectly reasonable. It fits in. Her story fits in more with the villainous narrative than Thor's at this point. And then you bring in Anthony Hopkins for a scene, and actually it was good. Excellent scene.
Has he ever phoned in a scene?
I don't know if in Marvel movies. No, because he's awful. He's awful in awful movies like the Transformers movies, but like he's still giving it an effort. Like he does not come counting for the paycheck.
Right.
He's coming to actually, if you want me to do stupid lines and act like a fool, I'll act a fool. But no, it's misplaced humor, and it's becoming far more prevalent in the Marvel movies. And I guess Thor, by nature of the character, again coming from the comic roots and just the mythological roots, is more of a dour and should be a little bit more serious character. But Hemsworth is really good at humor.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
And you're just and you realize this is what the movie going audience that you're shooting for is going to like. And I will say the things I have wrong with it, I still put it as the second best Thor movie. The Branagh directed Thor is the best Thor movie.
Yeah.
But it's super boring.
But the first Thor also wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't a galaxy ending story. It was just a fish out of water. No, it was
my son's an idiot, needs to be humbled story, basically. And then things go from there. But no, I think
versus the Iron Giant, I think.
The destroyer armor.
Sure, whatever.
Yeah, but I think they have the heart of what they want to do if they want to keep doing Thor stories. Is Thor and Loki, because Hemsworth and what's his name are both really good in those roles.
Keep Bruce Banner around too.
Yeah.
They had pretty good chemistry. Valkyrie is actually an interesting character, like you said. Yeah. Keep her around.
I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just misplaced humor now. And Cate Blanchett was like really good
as Maleficent.
Basically, the original version. The original, if you're gonna go historically, Helen has been around longer than Disney Maleficent.
Oh God, no! I only say that because I didn't see the movie when it first came out, and I kept seeing pictures of her, and I kept wondering why people keep posting pictures of Maleficent online, and that I hadn't seen either movie. Yeah. I'm not a Disney person, but no, I was legitimately confused.
But no, it's just, and then they bring in what's his name, who was Scourge, who was also Dredd. Carl Urban. They bring in Carl Urban to be Scourge, and he's a humorous character. It's like, no, Scourge is a mute like badass. But you're like, we're gonna do this direction. It's like you already have enough humor in this movie. You don't need this. Like you could have juxtaposed her whole plot being super, super serious, including him, against the rest of the humor in the movie, and that probably would have helped it.
At the end of the day, though, I just wasn't entertained. I think they were banking on the humor entertaining people. Now, Granted, I saw it in a second run theater, so it's not like the house was packed.
No, it's a
But
we know you like Guardians flavor, so we're gonna give you Thor now with Guardians flavor, and it's like, don't make all your movies samey because that's already becoming a problem.
nobody laughed.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I was in a theater that for a second run theater had a decent number of people in it because it was New Year's Day. Yeah, New Year's Day.
Yeah.
And it just that's what people do.
Yeah.
So but you would think in a movie that is banking on humor that you would have had at least a few laughs. And somehow this is a 92 on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm not gonna disagree with it. I think it's a
thumbs up over a thumbs down.
Almost quoted good movie. It's a good movie. It's a competent movie in what it's trying to do. It's just I would say so. I would say so.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one. It's
I think our standards are a little bit higher than reasonable.
As they should be. If you're expecting...
there's a point where I'm going to be like, it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. It's just like I said, I think that it skews too much into we have to be funny. And like you said, if it's falling flat, you're missing your point. But I don't know. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate aspects of it. I don't think it's terrible. It's easily watchable. But again, that's just what Marvel movies are at this point. They're watchable. They're flicks. They're watchable entertainment.
Jeff Goldblum was great.
Yeah. Because he was playing his apartments.com guy.
No, he was great. There were great elements to the movie, but as a whole, the movie did not mesh well together. You had two very divergent plots.
Yeah.
They kept cutting back and forth between.
And you have basically the problem of comic books, of cyclical storytelling, where we're again back to Thor doubting himself and doubting like what he is. It's like that's the first movie was all about that. And then the second movie was about Natalie Portman just cashing a check.
I'm not gonna say that I would recommend this one. If you're a Marvel person, you kind of have to watch at this point just to stay up to date.
I think part of it that might be it. I think we're all going to these. It's becoming mass. It's becoming going to mass. It's obligation. You're not there because you're getting anything out of it. You're there because, well, I want to watch. I want to see how the Avengers story plays out because I have a feeling that's going to be really good, at least to me.
But at Mass, you don't pay $8.50 for a bucket of wafers.
That's true. That's true.
Which is where the majority of my money went for this. It's $2.50 for the ticket, $15 for a drink and popcorn.
Where they get you.
Speaking of,
but no, it's
cyclical.
It's I don't know what being a fat guy. What food equivalent? It's like I don't know. It's like McNuggets. It's like it's gonna get you there, but you're not getting it. You're not gonna get excited, really.
And if you do get excited, which I'm based on the 92 rating on Rotten Tomatoes, some people did get excited. I guess you have low standards.
Yeah.
But Rotten Tomatoes.
My standards vary based on my expectations, and I was expecting it was what I expected. It was passable Marvel fare. So I'm not gonna say it's a bad movie. It's passable Marvel fare. It's one of the more entertaining of the. Are they in the third wave of Marvel movies at this point?
I think so.
I don't know.
The Doctor Strange stuff at the beginning was great.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I had a lot of hope for the movie.
Yeah, that kind of humor was good in that movie. Just like him constantly shifting Thor so that he was spilling.
Yes.
It was funny to me.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, this could be entertaining. If this is your tone, this is entertaining. But then you get into a very dour plot where you've got, what's his name?
Idris Elba.
Idris Elba, yeah.
Yeah, and they just, the tonal dissonance. The Asgard plot was really, really dark, and then Thor's hanging out with Jeff Goldblum and his brother and Hulk, and that was really fun, but didn't really fit what the movie was trying to do.
What was that World War II movie where there's all those people, I think in Poland, that were hiding and fighting against the Nazis?
I don't know.
Damn it!
Because what I was thinking of was the one way back that I think won an Oscar, and wasn't it about the Holocaust and the main character was like hiding it from his daughter or something. Life is beautiful, or everything is fine, or everything is beautiful. I don't know.
What the hell was that movie called? Defiance.
Oh, okay.
We're going back about 10 years, give or take. Daniel Craig was in it.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm watching the Idris Elba stuff and thinking, man, this, if it was its own movie of this one guy trying to lead people to freedom, I'm not saying that Defiance is the greatest movie ever or anything, but if you're going for sort of serious fare,
if you're going to a movie and the B plot's more intriguing to you, that's
well, the B plot was more tonally consistent.
Yeah.
And I liked that plot.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it was only a smidge of the movie.
I think they're just too worried that people aren't going to be interested in watching the Hela plot and how bad that is for the nine realms essentially. But so we just have to have funny space humor, which we already have movies that do that very, very well. But this fits, but I don't know.
Is Marvel trying to do a
I think Marvel's trying to take a giant iron to all the wrinkles of fun in their own universe at this point. They're trying to make everything. They realize what always works profit-wise and critic-wise, and they're just paving everything into that.
But Winter Soldier was their best movie.
Yes.
And it wasn't this.
No.
So what does that say?
I don't know. I think what they're trying to do is I think they're trying to do the old rising everything up to the same level. So they're gonna take what works and they're like, well, our cosmic stuff works really well because it's funny and clever and like it's a bunch of no-name characters and people like it. Well, the Thor franchise is kind of boring and slow, and it's probably our lowest money getter when his solo movies come out. So let's bring that up to where everything else is, even if we have to steal even thematic elements from other stuff.
Then why didn't they, instead of making this a Thor movie, why didn't they make this a Hulk movie?
Because the Hulk just can't carry his own picture.
But he was a more compelling character in this one than Thor was.
True, but
I mean, Captain America: Civil War should have been Avengers whatever.
They threw Captain America on there because they're like, oh, this fits in our 3-movie scaling for however many character movies we have to do.
But if you're going to keep Thor as almost a background character in his own movie, make this a Hulk movie, bring him back and get some name recognition back, and you can have the Thor plot going on in the background, focus on the Hulk, have what's Valkyrie. Yeah. Does she have a different name in the movie, or is it just Valkyrie?
No. They credit her as Valkyrie.
Okay.
She's not the traditional Valkyrie Brunhild, who's a blonde, super tall Valkyrie, but she's Valkyrie.
Very Aryan.
She's Valkyrie. Yeah, she's Valkyrie.
Oh,
but no.
You make this a Hulk movie. You Valkyrie. Introduce Valkyrie as a character because she's on the same planet, and you use Valkyrie as a window into the Thor plot, and then you bring it all together. Somehow.
Yeah, you could have Hulk just be like, Hulk, you know why Hulk's sad? Why you sad?
Yeah, something. Whatever.
Like that would have been cool if like your first introduction to Hela is Hela just fucking annihilating all the Valkyries except for her, and she's like, that's why I'm here and that's why I drink all the time.
And visually, the stuff where they're going back and showing the Valkyries and the Pegasi, that was some cool stuff.
And it's a better version of 300 than freaking Zack Snyder's 300. Slow-mo augmented reality looking shots look better now than when he did a whole movie of it because it doesn't work for a whole movie.
But we'll talk about that when we talk about our historical movies.
But no, stuff like that, like stuff like that, like visually was cool. Like the whole like, oh, you're looking at a moving fresco.
Yeah.
Because this is ancient space alien like mythos, but that's what it is. It's ancient space god mythos, and so it should look ancient looking, kind of through the mind's eye, I guess. But no, I get why I get that you're gonna keep your standards high, but I would and you're not gonna recommend it because there are pieces there they're not put together the way you'd want them to be.
It's entertaining. Don't go out of your way to rush to the theater to see it. Yeah. There are some redeemable...
It's something you could easily wait till it's on HBO or whatever streaming service because it's honestly I think the Marvel movies are starting to, once you build up to Infinity War, I have a feeling they're going to drop off dramatically. They say they want to change, and now that they own the X-Men again, they could easily bring me back by doing a complete reboot of that. What I want to see is Marvel do a Fantastic Four movie that's not shit because they know what the characters are about. I could see Marvel doing the Fantastic Four as a PG movie and it being one of the best Marvel movies.
Possibly, but you have to almost wonder if, much like Superman, the Fantastic Four are a relic of a different era.
I'll let you know this because I haven't been reading comics for a long time. But even when I got into comics, the Fantastic Four was a dying book because it wasn't edgy, because it was a family first book, because it was hokey almost. But there's still a lot there that I think could be used properly, and you don't have to make things edgy or anything like that.
No, but when I'm 33, so when I was really getting into comics, some of the first stuff that I ever read were some early 90s Spider-Man and Spawn. So this is my background with comics when I first got into it. Segue, though, speaking of mistimed humor.
Oh.
Do we want to move over?
Let's talk about
The Last Jedi?
10 to 15 years too late, you're on hold phone jokes and subversion of expectation that doesn't subvert expectation because the story group probably pulls your leash and says, hey, you know what? Do this like Star Wars always does this. Don't let anything new happen.
All right, before we even get into it, I need to make a statement about this movie. The majority of people who liked the movie, who have been criticizing the people who didn't like the movie, the criticism has largely been, you're a fanboy and you're upset that none of your theories were true. I'm not a fanboy.
I think you're discounting the fact that this is the three-front war. This is a fanboys that love the movie regardless because they're gonna love the prequels because anything that shitted out of George's oeuvre is genius to these morons, and we just don't count them because we're gonna spend the entirety of our adult lives making sure these people are able to feed themselves because they're idiots. Then there's the two sides that are going to be warring with each other that hated the movie. One side is the fanboy that felt jilted because not Luke Skywalker, not my theories, and then those of us who see the movie from a practical angle and realize what the fuck happened here.
And that's where we're approaching it from. But I have every time I've said I don't like it, the people who are defending it to the death immediately assume that I just didn't like the direction they went with it.
They think you're in Camp B.
Yes, exactly.
If A is the Mongoloid fan just shoving food into their face and buying BB-8s and porgs. But no, the B group is the one that I think we should really fear because the A's you can never redeem those people.
But the A's just dismiss even Group C, which is what we are, as being part of Group B in denial of being Group B. I don't give a fuck.
Because what you wanted to happen didn't happen, so that's why you're so vehement about it.
I
it's too big of a word for the A group, though.
Care. I don't care. I'm okay with whatever direction they want to take the movie as long as they make a good movie.
Yeah.
This wasn't a good movie.
Yeah.
There are
elements I do like about this as a fanboy, I guess. Because I grew up Star Wars was probably like one of the first things that I was like super into.
Same.
And I never really got out of it. But I've gotten a more critical eye and I've detached if there's one thing my adulthood has brought, I'm still a man child, but I've been able to distance myself from like I like this universe and I like characters in here and I like thematic elements, but like when all is said and done, you're bringing down the aggregate score of the franchise, and you're making new things that shouldn't be doing that. So maybe you shouldn't be making new things.
I've gone back and forth a few times on Rogue One. This movie made
Rogue One is the most overrated movie of all time at this point.
But this movie gave me a new appreciation for Rogue One for the following reason. It was tonally consistent. Think about that. For all of the flaws that Rogue One had, now I'm going back and rewatching it and thinking, man.
I'm going to rewatch it again because I feel like so many people, it's the subversion of expectation. This is a dark, sad Star Wars movie. It subverted your expectation for what a Star Wars movie should be. So it's the glorious, wonderful, best thing ever. And I'm like, no, it's just a good movie that tells a good like story about what happens in war. People fucking die on suicide missions.
I'm going to say that most Star Wars fans, A group that we were talking about,
A group wants flashy things that hit the same exact story beats that they're familiar with. so that their little children they can indoctrinate their children into the same things.
Star Wars is all about a moral binary. Jedi versus Sith. I mean, that's
And
that's
it's
what
so
it's been.
boring. It's
But
so boring.
it's just the way that things are done. It's okay to go back and take that whole medieval approach of good versus evil, very Tolkien-esque almost.
It's
and say there's
formative
good
storytelling. It's ancient storytelling.
exactly, and that's what it is, and that's okay. And I find it ironic that when the Star Trek movies try to be more like Star Wars,
It
they
diminishes
fall
them.
apart. And it's the same vice versa. The Star Wars movies, with Rogue One, you had them trying to be almost more like Star Trek, where you are introducing a moral gray area, which is what the whole TV show is about, of every Star Trek series almost. And by introducing that plot, I loved that they wanted to take it in that direction, because at the end of the day, I guess you'd say I'm a Star Trek guy over a Star Wars guy. So I love moral gray areas and ambiguity, but it was done in a story that didn't really need to be told. But from my perspective, I found it more enjoyable because at least it was totally consistent.
It's that glimmer of maybe they're actually growing with the physical age of their audience, maybe not the mental age of the Star Wars audience, which is unfortunate. That's why I've moved out of Group A, B, and a C in the past
however many years
of my life. At
Yeah.
least. But it's just I feel like this movie. I feel like Rian Johnson wanted to drag the fandom into things can change. We can do things differently. And I think the story group was like, no, there are Star Wars things that need to be Star Wars things, and we're gonna pull you back into being the Star Wars thing. And
it was.
I don't want to see the same stories regurgitated, and I feel like I'm seeing the same stories regurgitated. Just we're gonna take the movie, cut it up, and we're gonna put this element later in the movie, or we're gonna make you think this should be here, but it's not. It's later.
It reminded me a lot of almost Alien Covenant. Did you see that yet?
No, I won't watch the Alien prequels.
Okay.
I won't watch the Alien
So
prequels.
I know we've brought it up before, or I brought it up before, but Alien Covenant has a lot of very interesting philosophical ideas, which are spliced in with, hey, this is the alien that you know and love. Let's blow an alien out of an airlock with a Ripley-like character.
Yeah.
So the new Star Wars Last Jedi had some similar elements going on. You had what could have been a very compelling story with Luke spoilers.
Luke Skywalker is the best thing in this movie, in my opinion.
Almost, because they ruin it. It's almost
Is it because he says, I'm not going to go and face down the enemy alone, and then even though he does it as a force projection, he still does it?
No, it's because of the Abbott and Costello throw your lightsaber over your shoulder.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I know you haven't seen Covenant, but it's almost, if you have seen Covenant, imagine the scene with Fassbender talking to Fassbender and having them start doing Three Stooges pranks to each other. It doesn't make sense. You've got what should be a serious part of the movie, the whole philosophical underpinning of the movie, and you throw it out the window for cheap humor.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Alien getting blown out in an airlock by Ripley is the rest of the movie.
I didn't hate him throwing away the lightsaber based on where you see his character is as it goes.
But physically how he does it, throwing it over your shoulder, is slapstick comedy.
Yeah, just
taking it and just throwing it on the ground with contempt on your face it changes the scene completely.
Yeah. There is a lot of just misplaced humor, and how about the fact that they wasted an hour of our lives with a B plot that didn't need to exist at all.
You mean
Canto Bite, the casino planet.
Space Monte Carlo with Space Monopoly people?
Oh my god.
All right. Episode 2 was the Space Diner, right?
Yep.
Yeah, episode 2.
Yeah.
So
but that was like 5 minutes
but it's the same. It's taking
You know what that and reflecting on this movie has made me realize? Holy shit, the Star Wars story group doesn't realize that they put too many main characters in their movie, in their franchise. They needed to kill one off in this movie. And they almost did, but then they didn't. Even if they're closing his character arc.
it would have been a much better movie if they would have killed off Finn?
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
And
then
if they would have been smart, the B plot wouldn't have been let's go to a casino planet to get Benicio del Toro playing Benicio del Toro in one of the worst characters in the Star Wars franchise.
I disagree.
I fucking hated that character.
Benicio del Toro was probably my favorite part of the movie.
That pulled me out of the entire movie. If you want Star Wars to be Star Wars, you can't have a guy being himself, basically. I was waiting for him to pop a Heineken and start talking to me. No, that character was awful and irrelevant to me. I think it's because I hated that. By the time he showed up in that subplot, I hated that subplot already enough.
Okay, take him out of that movie and put him into Rogue One and have him talking about how he sells to both sides, and he fits perfectly.
Yeah. Again, elements of the movie that may have worked, but weren't working in this movie. But no, that Canto Bite plot was just. Ugh. I think they should have done something simpler. You shouldn't have had the lightspeed tracker be some kind of actual new technology. It should have just been, hey, how does Leia know where Rey is? Oh yeah, they have a wristwatch beacon. Hey, how does the fucking First Order know where our fleet is? They have a wristwatch beacon. Somebody on the ship is a mole. Hey, who here was a stormtrooper? You're the fucking mole. No, I'm not a mole. Maybe I am the mole. Hey, you know what? Stormtroopers have something in their blood that actually tracks them.
Anything.
Yeah.
Except now you've got Casino Planet, which I don't want to beat it to death, but I could have left.
It reeked of prequel.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at with the whole space diner thing.
And if we're gonna say Star Wars has certain things that are Star Wars and then doesn't have other things, we don't need an animal cruelty element in Star Wars. We've already established that this is a bad universe. Like, bad things happen. There's slavery in the Star Wars universe. The prequels did a horrible job of establishing it, but I think 25 minutes in Jabba's palace and in Return of the Jedi established it well enough.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need that. People are treated badly by those who are wealthier.
Backtracking a little bit though, the 50th diner in episode 2.
Oh God.
I'm just saying, if you have a totally different future.
A look? You're talking about the look.
Just you got a different look to your universe.
And you get what they're going for is hey, anything that you've seen in your world can't exist in the Star Wars world because it's just so vast.
But a 1950s diner is a very specific thing to put in. And to have people dressed as a 1920s Monopoly man is a very specific look that is tied to our world. Do something original. You can portray rich upper class people.
You know what the worst part about it is? The sports betting bar in Attack of the Clones is a better version of this planet.
Oh God.
Yeah. You never thought you'd be thinking about something redeemable from just the visuals of the prequels.
It's like poetry. It like rhymes.
First draft's ready, and then they're filming the next week, and you're like, no wonder.
Was that the line though from Lucas? It's like poetry and it rhymes?
Yeah, it's like poetry and rhymes, I think.
Oh.
That's one of the best George memes. But no, I get it. It's felt lazy because it was too familiar to our world.
Yes, exactly. Lazy.
Yeah. But then stuff that's in the movie far later than it should be, like the Salt Planet, was awesome. Visually,
sure.
Yeah, but at that point you're like, oh, this is the end of the movie, not the middle of the movie that was actually fucking awesome and should have been the end of the movie.
I never thought that I would appreciate the Return of the King's ending.
Oh yeah. It didn't linger that long, but
yes, it did.
Maybe because it's the middle of a trilogy, and you're like, this movie's still not over. This movie's still not over. It's the middle of the trilogy.
Return of the King, you had 100 characters that you had to tie up.
Yeah.
So
because
go
this is the end.
We
need to let you know what happened. To everybody.
And I get it. It just took a while.
And because at that point, the Lord of the Rings was a triumph of film, and you didn't want to leave it, even if it did linger too long. You didn't want to leave it. But I like the Force related plot in this.
But that's
the only thing I really like in this movie.
Like, you and I have had episodes that have been deleted that people will never hear.
Yeah.
That we have a great idea for a topic to talk about.
And then just none of it comes together.
And we start talking about it, and we realized, crap, we didn't really have enough for a whole episode. The one that we recorded a few weeks back was how GoldenEye is the best movie of 1984.
Yeah, because it came out. That movie was plucked out of the time stream. I feel like it's if you've seen like Man in the High Castle, it's from one of the parallel worlds where the Cold War didn't end, and it didn't end before like '96, and then that movie came out. And it was the best movie in '96.
But we'll get back to the topic at some point. But that's the point. You and I knew enough to listen to what we had recorded and think, well, we had a good core of an idea. It just didn't work. Yeah. So let's delete this half hour that we talked. Yeah. Whereas I think they must have at some point gotten into it and thought, well, we can do another $100 million worth of reshoots, or we can just put this out because we know that people are going to pay money for a Star Wars movie no matter what we give them. We proved that with the prequels.
But I like the Force plot. Just what if anything, what did you like out of this movie? The humor.
The humor was garbage. Yeah. I didn't laugh.
I'm trying to think of a well-placed humor. Well-placed humor when Luke fights Kylo Ren and says, "See you around, kid." That's what his father said. That's what Han Solo would say. That was like not really humorous, but that was kind of like flippant.
Yeah,
I was okay with like that type of thing.
That was a little more twist the knife.
Yeah.
Not really humor. I guess humor if you're in a certain mindset.
I didn't mind Luke teaching Rey the Force and teasing her with bamboo.
Okay,
I thought that was
good. Yes, I thought that too.
I thought that was hilarious. Just like the oh, you're so eager to learn this bullshit. Let me tell you why it's bullshit.
But I found that more compelling than I found it humorous.
Yeah. And then hey, let's have like I'm gonna say okay with it scene of Rey training with lightsaber, and then she almost kills some of like the alien like nuns. Ha ha!
No, I hated it. I hated it.
Yeah, me too.
That was not funny. It didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Just I'm trying to think of anything that was actually funny for a real reason in that movie.
None of the humor worked. No one in the theater, granted I saw it a week after, and the attendance was way lower.
Things that are there for comedic effect that made it like BB-8 being able to run an AT-ST, I thought was okay because you've already established in the prequels that the older astromechs that R2 were capable of like bullshit levels of like hacking stuff, and like at that point maybe it was just because I was just being punched in the face by this movie repeatedly already, but I was like okay, that's funny to me because it's like you've already established that these droids are far more capable than they are.
I guess.
But just like intentional, like we're trying to make you laugh stuff didn't work for me in this movie at all. A little mini like grubby Monopoly man putting coins in BB-8. He thinks he's a.
But they do it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
The first time that they did it,
I think it's a lot of stuff there for kids, and most of your audience is people our age or older at this point. I know we want kids to watch these movies, but like you can't have deep themes that like kids can't grasp until they're older and still try to keep them. A kid's not going to be able to sit there for 2.5 hours, even if the movie is thematically consistent and the plot continues to drive itself.
If you want to do Campbell's hero's journey, whatever, it's something that you can do, but you need to keep it consistent. I'm not going to say that these are kids' movies in the same way that the prequels are kids' movies. The episode 4 wasn't necessarily a kids' movie. It was something for all audiences. Yeah. Would you agree? The original
A New Hope or Star
A New
Wars?
Hope.
Yeah. It's just.
All right. Can I switch topics just a little?
Go ahead.
I am so sick of the Heath Ledger treatment that Carrie Fisher is getting.
Really? She's getting. Oh, she was a great actress.
No, she was
not.
She was
a great drug addict who wrote a great memoir.
As a person, I would have loved to have partied with Carrie Fisher. She seems like she would be an awesome person to hang out with. But you can't go and say that her performance in this was on the level of Ledger's Dark Knight. Joker.
Not even when she was Space Mary Poppins.
And that meme has been beaten to death since.
Were you sitting in the theater when that happened thinking you had to have gone into editing this movie very close to when she died and you didn't think at once, yeah, I know we shot scenes later in the movie with her. Maybe we could just work this so that she fucking dies as a character here.
You could even put her Luke reuniting scene at the very end where they're both ghosts.
That would have been awesome.
You could have done so many other things with a little bit of a filter to make her.
It's just okay. Let's just talk about like inconsistency and weirdness in this movie. So her bridge gets blown the fuck up, and they killed Admiral Akbar.
Yeah.
Her bridge gets blown the fuck up, and then she magically forces herself back to the bulkhead so that they could get her into the ship, and then goes into a coma. So she almost dies, and then oh wait, we don't have anything for her to do at this point in the movie, so we're gonna like movie kill her, as in put her in a coma. And then she comes back, and what does she do? Talks to her brother, and then nothing. This character could have died there, and it would have not hurt the movie at all.
It would have improved the movie.
It would have improved the plight of the rebels.
Yeah, all of the above.
Because, okay, forgetting, we'll get into the details of this. What did you think of Laura Dern's Admiral Holdo character?
Unnecessary?
Unnecessary, but did you not appreciate the fact that she was way over her head?
I would have appreciated it more if there was any sense of urgency to what they were doing. It's at no point,
and that's where the casino planet really hurt. The fact that they were at Subluminal being chased.
They might as well have been driving a white Bronco, because that was the slowest.
It was the OG.
It was the OG.
Granted, it's space, so everything looks slow in space, but it's like you're at Subluminal, but you're at a Subluminal. This is what really hurts the movie. This is the Star Trek creeping in. You're using science fact in a movie that's science fantasy. Our ship is faster than their command ship, so we can outrun their gun range and keep them at Subluminal. Will be far enough from them that they can't send out fighters and be able to take them in at a reasonable clip. That's not Star Wars. It's never really been Star Wars. Star Wars, at most, tactically, Star Wars has been, there's a lot of Imperials, there's very little of us, we got to make our shots count. That's Star Wars, like, like in anything. That's what, in film, Star Wars should be if you're going to go tactically. This went too tactical, and then it just never felt true.
And for anyone who's listening to this and thinking, these guys are just... I'm willing to forgive a lot with Star Wars, because Star Wars is a space fantasy movie. It's not hard sci-fi. It was never meant to be. So I'm very forgiving. What I'm complaining about here is a lack of just general storytelling.
There was no tension in the main plot. The main thing was... what's left of the rebels is being... literally white Broncoed. They're being chased by, which I rolled immediately in this movie at the opening crawl when they said the First Order has taken over. It's like, yeah, I know they blew up the rebellion, or they blew up the current capital. How is the New Republic that weak that that literally the fringe space MAGA was able to just hit them once and they were done?
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, and at that point, I'm like, you know what? Good. Maybe the New Republic does fucking suck. But it's just the idea, like the tension was not there because you had so many subplots going on in Rey's case, which was more interesting than the rebellion, than the Resistance's plight.
I liked the stuff with her and Ren.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I will go on a limb and say Force Skype was awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to make a joke, but people who are like, where did that Force power come from? Fuck you, it worked.
I liked it. It was some of the only compelling stuff in the movie.
Yeah.
Have you noticed we haven't even talked about Snoke? Because, for one, I hate saying...
I like that he was a red herring.
Me too, but
I like that he was a red herring.
I hate even saying the name Snoke. It sounds like something that's more Harry Potter than Star Wars.
It definitely does. It definitely does. But
no,
I like that. I like that for once they were like, we're gonna have a super force sensitive, mysterious evil dude, and you're never gonna learn anything about him. He's just there, and he was really strong, and he unified what was left of the Imperials, and then he overreached what he thought his power was. The end.
I didn't like him visually. You didn't need
I'm
Andy.
glad. Yeah, I'm glad they got rid of a. This guy could have just been Andy Serkis in a lot of scarred makeup
Yes.
instead of we're gonna use Andy Serkis for everything but his actual face. Just
You
use
could
Andy
have done
Serkis.
a couple hours in the makeup chair
Yes.
versus whatever the fuck he was. His visuals reminded me way too much of the newer Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah, of the White Orc. Right?
Yeah,
yeah, the
that's
White
exactly
Goblin.
what
Yeah.
I was thinking. The
Of
White Orc.
like one of your pivotal characters or pivotal antagonists is all fake, and he has to have pivotal scenes with characters, and it's just gonna not look. It's gonna look like somebody talking to a tennis ball. But
Which is exactly what it was.
yeah. But no, I mean I'm fine with him having no purpose whatsoever other than to bring those two characters
Yeah.
together.
Which there's so much more they could have done with those two. When I say those two, I mean Ray and Ren.
It's the oh wow, like we're gonna have one of them turn and then no, just kidding. Like so we have to watch another movie knowing full well that Star Wars is cyclical and Kylo Ren's probably not gonna be an asshole by the end of it.
He's redeemed and he dies like Vader.
I'm pretty sure what's gonna happen in the final movie is there's gonna be a doomsday weapon. It's gonna get really out of hand. She's gonna plead to him. And he's gonna realize I made a terrible mistake, and then he's gonna sacrifice himself for her and for the fact that I was a super shithead for the last 3 movies. It's gonna happen. Mark it down. They're probably gonna change the order of things because we're gonna subvert what you think's gonna happen. But that's just what I expect because that's how Star Wars works, and that's to its detriment because it is kind of plot shallow.
But there's so much you can do. You could have Ray.
They should both be gray Jedi. Just use both aspects of the Force and just occasionally be selfish.
Don't you think that it's a little late in the game to introduce the Gray Jedi into the mainstream movies?
At this point, yeah. But I'm pretty sure he's the best character in the new trilogy because he seems really human.
You know what I'd love to see for the third one that they'll never do? Very beginning of the movie, Rey decides that she's going to turn, air quotes, turn to the dark side, join Kylo to subvert him.
That seems like too clever an idea, too smart of an idea.
And then you could have the main...
So did you ever read Dark Empire?
No, but you could have the main plot be her saying, okay, I'm going to act like I'm turning...
for her to be there to just drop the, oh, that was a great idea, too bad it's going to cost this or whatever, and just be like, I'll follow your orders, but like,
yeah,
it's not going to work.
Then the internal struggle of her, okay, how long can I keep up this charade of being a bad guy while really being a good guy until I turn into a bad guy? How long can you stare into the abyss before it stares back into you?
So basically, you want episode 9 to be Star Wars Training Day.
Yes, yes, exactly. That is exactly what I want. That's the only way I could see them redeeming it with something other than a big fight with a big doomsday weapon.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a big doomsday weapon.
Fuck it.
It's gonna be a big doomsday weapon because it's the third movie in a Star Wars franchise that isn't the prequels, and it's gonna be JJ back, so it's gonna be super rote Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's gonna be paint by number nostalgia Star Wars is what it's gonna be. I wonder how much he's gonna try to walk back before realizing that, hey, when we gave Rian Johnson the keys, he went full young James Kirk and stole the car and blasted sabotage. But no, I do appreciate that he tried to go somewhere else with it. It's just he didn't make a good movie out of it.
Have you sat back and thought that of all the directors since Disney took over, Gareth Edwards was the best?
Not really. Well, it's because Abrams was good, but it was such a rote movie when you think back on it. Like, The Force Awakens is a good movie. It's just a repeat.
Which I don't mind.
Exactly, but
it was Star Wars.
Yeah.
It was everything that you expected out of Star Wars. Let's face it, Star Wars Episode 4.
And that movie had to pull some weight because it had to pull the franchise out of the prequels.
Star Wars has been around for 41 years. 77, right? We're in 2018?
Yes.
So at this point, Abrams made a Star Wars movie. And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with making a Star Wars movie. I'm definitely okay with that. But Gareth Edwards, is the only person who has so far since Disney took over done his own thing with the
I
franchise.
think that's because there wasn't the weight of it being a saga film, though. It didn't have to fit into what the overarching narrative has to be for the big three movies.
Well, do you think Ron Howard's gonna beat him for a
Oh,
standalone? No.
I've seen every Star Wars release since the special edition started, either on the midnight release or day of release. And that's the first movie where I'm like, I might just know on it is the Solo movie
I don't
because it
care.
doesn't need to exist
No.
at all. It's why I won't watch the Alien prequels. You don't need to demystify stuff that's better not being known.
I'm a huge Star Wars, Jesus. I'm a huge Mad Max fan. You know what I don't want to see?
Immortan Joe before the world fell.
Lord Humongous origin story.
Yeah.
Because he's very well spoken. He could have been an English teacher and maybe the gym coach before the apocalypse, which is why he's a muscle-bound, literate man.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Don't.
What matters is that he fit into that universe. Han Solo fits into the universe as a scoundrel who turns into a hero.
Well, that also is just the now thrown away Legends lore for him is probably better than what they're going to come up with, which is the detriment to throwing away the original expanded universes. There are some clever things in there that are going to be changed for the sake of this is our property now. Everything we make is canon now. But I just never. And then they're going to do a Boba Fett movie with how bad they made the character in the prequels. What is there to tell between him being like 10 and him being eaten by the Sarlacc because a blind man hit him?
You know what it's going to be. It's going to turn out just like the new Netflix Punisher series, where you're going to have 80% of it being an unnecessary plot, and then 20% being what you love about the character.
Yeah, which is him not talking and just looking cool because it was a great armor design.
Yeah.
I have a Boba Fett phone case, and I recognize that he's a shit character. Like, that's where I am in my Star Wars fandom. Like, I like the way it looks. In practice, it's shit.
It's time for Star Wars to die.
Oh man, they have another trilogy lined up. Just end it at 9. Cap it at 9 saga films. Do as good a job as you can of finishing this loop, and then just ending it with the galaxy will be fine. This might happen again because time is a flat circle.
I would watch a Shadows of the Empire movie.
Shadows of the Empire is a cool concept. What's cool is in the comics they've done the Shadows of Empire effect of we're going to tell the 2.5 story. We're going to tell the intermediate story.
5.5 at this point.
Yeah. If Shadows of the Empire is 5.5, the comics before I got out of reading them was doing the 4.5 story, which is an interesting story. Like, how the hell did the rebels hold up on Hoth? Like what happened in between Luke being a hero of the rebellion and becoming like Commander Skywalker type of thing? Like, that's interesting. Like, some of that's interesting there. But
what, as an aside, because we're about to hit an hour here, the name of the female lead in Blade Runner. Sean
Young's character.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is terrible on us. That's how relevant she was.
Yeah, but I'm just gonna throw this out there. If we're talking about Star Wars in general.
Rachel.
Yes, Rachel. CG Rachel looked so much better than or CG Leia or CG Grand Moff Tarkin. There was no uncanny valley with her.
Yeah.
How a year apart is Blade Runner putting out better effects than Star Wars with a budget of infinite?
Yeah, with a budget of here's a check, pay whoever you need to, get anybody who can render that you need to. I don't know. I always thought that aspect of what they tried to do with Rogue One was a bit overambitious. We're gonna make Tarkin in this movie not as like a 1 or 2 scenes that we really polish. Like, he's gonna be kind of a side character. He's gonna be Krennic's nemesis in this movie. I gotta watch it again because now that you're talking about it, I think it's because I think it's in the way that Heath Ledger's Joker is really good, but so many people want to tell you how good it is that you want to be like, fuck you. I feel like I've gotten to that point with Rogue One where it's like everybody's like, oh, Rogue One's the greatest thing that ever happened to Star Wars. Fuck you. Yeah, it's a good movie.
Rogue One is filled with unnecessary fan service that if it had been cut, you didn't need to see Vader on a lava planet hacking people to death. That wasn't necessary to the movie.
I liked it. It wasn't necessary.
But it was fan service.
Him quipping was wholly not necessary.
Take all the fan service out of that movie, flesh out the characters, and spend a little more time on the actual plot of the story, and it could have been excellent. It was an entertaining story. I liked the plot.
I think you could. I think you could have shored out some of those characters. You could have taken away some of the side characters that you killed off. But I mean, Jin's a good character.
Sure.
Her father's a good character. Well, Mads Mikkelsen's a great actor, so
yeah,
this is gonna be okay.
For the 30 seconds he was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then Mendelsohn's really good, so his character is good.
But
I just like angry. I like angry stick up his ass Imperial officer as a main character. It doesn't work with Domhnall Gleeson because he's just a caricature at this point in these new movies. Which is unfortunate because I was like, oh, they're gonna have like a young Tarkin stand-in, like a young commanding Imperial officer, and now all he's there to be is he's there to get dunked on by Kylo Ren when he gets mad, which is funny in and of itself. But it's like, oh, you sign up being in Star Wars and you're like a name character that survived the first movie as a baddie, and that's like a big deal. Not in the new Star Wars, let me tell you. But now you're just there to get force dunked.
All right. I think we should kill it there. We're about an hour in, so.
Okay.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts here? See this movie. Not because it's good. No. But you have to see this movie to understand what's going on. Because really, I don't know if anybody knew what was going on. Editing wise, it had to have been a nightmare to try to put that thing together.
I disagree. I think that they could have saved this movie in editing. Episode 4 was saved in editing. There have been whole books written on the topic.
Yeah.
This movie could have been saved.
So
what you're
saying is, help me, Topher Grace. You're our only hope.
Sure, why not? It's.
Should we explain that, the Topher Grace?
Go ahead.
Topher Grace, apparently it's like an urban legend at this point almost. Right after he left that 70s show and didn't really make it as a solo actor, although he was in one good movie, he wanted to go into filmmaking, so I guess he did a personal edit of all of the prequels into one 90-minute movie that apparently is the best version of the prequels that he only showed to friends and never released, because I mean he'd get sued to hell.
Yeah.
But if there's any way for that edit to be either pieced together through discussion with his friends of what they remember from how it was pieced together, that might replace what is it, the machete order of watching the Star Wars movies at this point. You just watch the Topher Grace edit and then you watch them in cinematic order.
I guess.
But yeah, if there's a way to edit this, I don't know, because I think just the tension of the main rebel fleet being chased plot is just undercut at every turn with everything else going on. There wasn't this movie needed. Maybe Rian Johnson needed to watch Speed a couple of times to realize how you ratchet up with chase tension and still have other plots going on.
What do you think George Miller thinks when he looks at these movies?
Does he even need to watch these?
I'm sure he does.
He probably.
I'm sure he watches them. I'm sure that just because he's a human being and this is Star Wars and he's in the movie industry that he watches this stuff.
Yeah, I mean it is stuff that sets the industry, I guess.
He's gotta.
It just to bring it back to us talking about Thor, I feel like Disney just realizes they have everybody by the balls at this point.
Yeah.
And they can put out anything and it'll make money and they'll be able to pay enough critics to say some boilerplate about it and have it get a good Rotten Tomatoes score. Because this movie is, I think, the first time I've ever seen where the fan score is far closer to what it really should be compared to the critic score. I mean, I haven't seen it in the intervening weeks since I saw it release to where it was 95%.
It's still in the low 90s.
And 45 to 50 with fans. And I bet a lot of that is the age group of fans that we talked about earlier that are just going to hate on the B group that's gonna hate on the fact that it wasn't what they expected out of it. Whereas I would have thought more critics would be in the C group of this is just a mess. There's elements here that work, but not in the whole.
At the end of the day,
not in the film that we got.
It's either thumbs up or thumbs down. Is it a fresh or is it rotten? And if 92% say, well, I'm going to lean into the fresh side, that's how you get that score.
Yeah.
But I've got to go to the other way on this one.
I'd recommend you see it just to see
what everyone's talking about.
To see what's happened to tentpole films in this country at this point. Like, they don't need to really... They pay lip service by paying a lot of money for effects and for cast and making behind the scenes stuff that likes to skew it. Behind the scenes stuff now is getting to be like political propaganda for films. Oh, it was just such a pleasure to work with these people. You know what the sterling example of that is? The behind the scenes stuff for that fucking terrible Mummy movie that Tom Cruise did. Oh, working with Tom was a joy. He came to set and was like excited. Do you really think a guy who's been in the industry that long that like Tom Cruise really enjoyed working on the movie knowing what a piece of shit it was going to be?
Contrast that with Fury Road. I hate I always come back to this. It's just this movie and this franchise in general, but look at Fury Road. They Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron openly admitted they hated each other, and they openly admitted that they thought the movie, they had no idea what was going on. They were just filming this stuff. They hated being there because of the harsh setting of the film. They're in the deserts of Namibia, and they thought, well, I just have to put a little bit of faith in George Miller that he's going to turn this into something great. But they were open about the fact that they had questions in their mind to the point that they apologized to George Miller after that they ever had any doubts.
Yeah.
I want to see a little bit of that behind the scenes of these movies.
Yeah, it's just you know what? Here's what the Star Wars Story Group and Disney as a Disney Buena Vista, whatever they are now, the juggernaut of basically the only thing. We're getting to the point where film in America is like products in Emilio Estevez's Repo Men, where it's just you're going to the store to buy beer and it's just white can beer, like where it's movie. Who's the studio? Disney Film,
which now owns Fox.
Everything, yeah. But here's what I want to cap this off with is don't make movies, Star Wars or otherwise, unless you have a story to tell. Don't just make a movie because we slotted three new movies in this franchise, so we're going to make 3 new movies. If you don't have the story to tell, don't do it until you have the story to tell.
How many years?
That's just because you have a director who wants to take on that undertaking of starting another saga. Have the story to tell.
Christopher Nolan took years between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. And after The Dark Knight, I remember him saying, hey, there might be a 3rd movie. There may not. It depends on if I have a story to tell. And 4 years later, he put out The Dark Knight Rises. And it's because he felt he had a story to tell, and he didn't have this, okay, well, we're supposed to have a Gambit movie now, and then whatever, and a whatever.
Yeah. It's a
product. I get it. They need to make their money.
It's the Disney Marvel Star Wars format of we're turning feature films into serialization. And that's worrisome. Because they're going to want you to bring more into every movie at this point. And that diminishes the movie's narrative as a whole. A movie should be a standalone story that can be enjoyed by itself. Empire Strikes Back is the 2nd movie in a sequel, in a series, but it can be enjoyed by itself largely. You can't really say this about anything of the new Star Wars trilogy.
No, I skipped the 2nd Thor, and there are parts where in the 3rd one where I just had to assume, well, okay,
things happen in that movie.
Things happen. I was able to pick up on it.
Yeah.
But it's all part of... I've got enough TV shows that I watch that I need to know what the hell's going on from series to series.
Yeah, yeah. It's getting to be... There's a lot of research you need to go into
a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Or a Star Wars movie.
It's funny because Marvel movies are getting to the point where the barrier of entry, which was the problem with the comics industry at this point, is there's so many years of storytelling that is still canon to those characters. It's getting to be that with you're gonna have to watch Iron Man, which You're gonna have kids that were like 4 when Iron Man came out. They're gonna have to have watched Iron Man to make sense of what's going on.
But hey, Drew.
Yeah.
It's like poetry.
It's like
it
poetry,
rhymes.
Right? And also to end this, to go back to your George Miller quote.
Yeah.
To go back to your George Miller
George
quote,
Miller or
your discussion about Fury Road. What you're saying is to tease a future episode, you should be like Tommy Wiseau and take a cue out of Alfred Hitchcock's book, and he was a mean man. I'm director. I will be mean man if I have to.
On that note, thanks for coming back and being patient with us. We've got a lot more planned in the near future as soon as we can wrangle in our third mics. And we will be back soon.
Bye.